Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bass, and today we are doing another springtime gear review. We've got 4 different baits for you, 3 rods, and a reel. We recently did a gear review, but with the Bassmaster Classic just rolling through, there are all kinds of new releases and a lot of awesome new things coming to market. All right, let's kick it off with the baits and then we'll circle back around on rods and reels. The first one that I want to talk about is actually 2. It's a couple of A-rigs. If you guys are familiar with Hog Farmer, they are probably the most consistent A-rig builder in the entire industry. So many different options from them, almost always in stock. They're really reliable, but almost all of their A-rigs come with stiffer wire. You guys know that out here in the West, we really focus on those soft rigs, those flexible rigs that will move and pump. And when you work that rod tip, they flex in the water. Well, Hog Farmer just came out with 2 of what they're calling flex rigs. Now we've got probably the best guy in the industry building those lighter wire, flexible rigs. So this is his BFL rig in the flex wire. Much softer, so when you're pumping that rod, again, those baits will move and open and compress, and you can get those reaction bites. So they've got it in the BFL, and then they also have it in their Harvester rig. The Harvester is interesting because this is the one that Hog Farmer says all the true giant fish get caught on down there in the south. Well, they didn't want the whole rig to be flexed, so all the dummy wires, the ones that won't have hooks on them, they're flexible, but the main hook wires are still a stronger, stouter wire. So all the dummy baits will move while the strong interior baits will stay fairly rigid, and those are the ones you're gonna hook up on. So regardless of which style you like, if you want a bigger rig, or you're like us where we like that smaller, finessier, more flexible rig, you've got great options. Next up, let's talk about a worm. This little guy right here from Missile Baits. They came out at the Classic with their Quiver worm in 2 sizes. This is the 6.5. We've already done a ton of damage with these things. You could rig them all sorts of ways. You could Nico rig them, you can put them on a shaky head, you can put them on a darter head or a ball head, but it's an ultra soft worm, and then it's got this big paddle tail on the end of it. They move incredibly well in the water. This is an awesome worm. It's a really good size. It's going to fish well in the spring, but it's also big enough that it will fish well in the summer. I'm really happy with these and have already hammered some fish on them. Now, down in the video description, we'll link all this gear. We'll include some of our favorite colors for you as well, just to make it really simple. Next up, these are just new colors. So glide baits with the Classic, and actually this one came out before the Classic, but a lot of companies are putting out new colors as well as new baits. So a couple new colors to be aware of. River to Sea paired up with Tackle Warehouse and did a Phantom Trout. It's a very ghosty color, very clear, very iridescent, but it's got a beautiful like purple pink on the bottom and then that blue green on the top. I've already watched Tim put the hammer down with this color, so wanted to make you aware of that. And then Bait Sanity, their smaller bait, the Antidote, they have 2 new shad colors, a summer shad and then this guy, which is that bolder, brighter shad, but both look really good and definitely stepped up the color game at Bait Sanity. So a couple new colors in glide baits for you. All right, next up, we've got this guy right here. From Megabass, looks like a Vision 110, but way bigger, much larger overall profile. They're calling this the 110 Max. It is literally a bigger 110. Same exact profile, just blown up. It's got a really unique weight transfer system in it. It's basically a cylinder that's sliding back and forth. So when you go to cast it, it's got that clunk sound a lot like a Jackal has, where it slams back, bang, and then you fire that thing. But a much larger profile with that sliding cylinder. You're getting great distance out of it. It's not just spiraling out in the wind. That is awesome. And it comes in some of the really good megabass colors, including this one, which happens to be one of my absolute favorites. Over the past year, this has become one of my go-to colors for throwing a jerkbait. But very, very impressed with that bait, and actually impressed with the hardware on it as well. They've gone back to more of a round bend standard style hook, and I really like them. Sticky, sticky sharp. I'm not changing those out the gate, not until they wear out. Now, that brings us to rods. Rods and reels. Since I'm holding this one in my hand, let's start here. Poison Adrena. You guys have been asking us for a long time to give an opinion on these rods. We've been fishing with this one for over a year now. I feel way more than confident that it's ready to give you an opinion. This one in particular is the 611 Medium Plus. Now let's talk Poison Adrena first, and then we'll talk specifically about that action. Poison Adrena, the question over and over and over and over for months has been, what do we think of them? Is it worth it? Is it a significant step up from X-Pride? The answer, in my opinion, is yes. I mean, it's a step up from X-Pride in price and in sensitivity and quality. They're amazing rods. They are definitely worth the price. They're awesome. They use a very different handle, where the handle is essentially part of that blank. A monocoque handle, I believe, is what they call that. But the transfer of sensitivity is phenomenal. I've been very, very happy with the Poison Adrena, and like I said, I've been using it for quite a while. Now, that 611 Medium Plus, those plus actions are something new fairly recently, the last year or two, you know, like a Medium Light Plus or a Medium Plus. What is the deal with those actions across the board at Shimano? For me, they actually remind me a lot of G Loomis MBR actions. Now, not actually in how they flex. I'm not trying to make a straight comparison. But what I mean by that is that a rod like this, a Medium Plus, you're thinking, oh, you know, that's got some backbone to it, but not too much. Well, it's got a really soft tip section, but it actually has a ton of backbone. So the way they transition through the rods, much like an MBR, creates a rod that will do all sorts of different things. So I can take this rod out. Now, I'm not saying it is the perfect flipless rod or the perfect jerkbait rod or the perfect anything, but what I am going to say is that I could take this out and throw this 110 max on it, and then I could cut that off and tie on a lipless and throw that. Then I could cut that off and tie on a Texas rig. I could cut that off, tie a finesse jig. You end up with a rod, those plus rods, that will do far more than their rating would suggest. So if you've been wondering about that, as well as about the Poison Adrena specifically, you should be looking into those rods as great rods for all around. Now let's do a budget rod, then I've got a couple more high-end things for you. I wanted to talk about this model specifically, Shimano Intenza. This is the 7.6 Glass. This past year, I've talked a ton about the Zodius 7.6 Glass because it's a rod where I'm able to throw a 10XD and a larger square bill all on the same rod, which is really, really unique. Well, Intenza, they brought that same rod, 7.6 Glass, at an even lower price point. Totally budget affordable. This one I paired up with an SLX XT for cranking, but you could pair it up with a handful of different reels. Put a KS on it, you could put an SLX, you put a DC on there, depending on where you want that price point to land. But why this model? This one is even a little bit softer than the Zodius Glass. You could throw a regular square bill, you could throw a lipless if you need to, all the way up to the big crankbaits in one rod. So if you are looking for a budget cranking rod, that is an awesome choice. So Intenza as a whole, we've been really happy with for their price, but this 7.6 Glass is no joke. That is an awesome model, and I wanted to bring that to your attention. Now let's go the other way, high end. Now you're talking over $600 for a rod. Don't worry about the reel. I put a Corrado on here just so I could get a feel for this rod recently, but this is from St. Croix. A bunch of you saw this in the Texas rig video. About half the comments in that video weren't even about Texas rigs, they were about this rod, so how could we not talk about it? St. Croix Legend Extreme. You're talking, I think retail on them is like $650. It is not a budget rod. It is a high-end rod. What's interesting about them, I'll give you my full opinion. I've been fishing with it for a little while now. It is not the lightest rod that I've ever used. That's not what they were going for. They didn't try to make a featherweight rod. What they made is an insanely sensitive rod. This is the 7.4 heavy. The very first thing I did with this was throw an S-waver on it and go catch glide bait fish. Then I threw an A-rig on it. Then I threw a jig on it. I wanted to see how this rod could really perform. The sensitivity is amazing. I really like this handle. If you're a St. Croix guy, you're familiar with that little bit of a bulbous handle, and you either love it or hate it. My hand, it fits like a dream. For Tim, that's not his favorite feel. We have differing opinions on that. Our hands must be different sizes, but for me, it fits like a glove. The sensitivity coming out of this blank is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I've been very, very impressed with it. Where it differs from some of the other high-end rods for me is that, well, one, it's not ultra light, but as a result, it doesn't have that I'm gonna break it feel about it. You know what I'm talking about? Where you pick up a rod and you're like, I have nothing in my hand. Then you go to smash a hook set and the rod doesn't break, it's perfect, but you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna shatter this rod. This doesn't have that at all. It feels like a power fishing rod. It feels like a rod that you would hammer a hook set on, and then you do, and it's perfect. I am very, very impressed with these. Overall, fell in love with this particular model. Now, this is the only one that I've played with. Tim went with a spinning rod. I went with a casting rod. So we had both to compare. This is the only one I've put a bunch of time into. So I don't have a full opinion on the spinning yet. I need to borrow Tim's and play with that. But on the casting end, I've loved this thing. It's got that St. Croix feel. It's got that little bit more moderate action than something you would compare it to. It's just got that Croix vibe about it. I've been very, very happy with it. Now, last but not least is not the NRX, although NRXs are incredible, and I would be happy to talk about that all day long, but it's this reel. Shimano Twin Power. This little guy intrigues me. I bought one right away. I had to have one. It comes in the 300s. It came out with almost no fanfare. I mean, nobody was talking about the Twin Power at all, which is why I wanted to know what it was. So I went out and actually did some research, did some reading. What is this reel that nobody's talking about? It is essentially, I mean, I hate to paraphrase it, and that's what I do though. In my mind, it's a Stella. It's got that Stella feel. It's got that connected feel. It's got a bunch of high-end components in it at right around half the price of a Stella. If you're looking for a really high-end feeling reel, you want that higher-end feel, you want to step up into that game and try something different. So far, I love this reel. Absolutely love it. I bought one and I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't get another one. I've got another rod that I should have put it on. But so far, absolutely love it. I've been throwing it in the 3000 size, which is perfect for just about everything that I do. It's just that larger spool. The profile is still small. It's just that larger spool. And this Twin Power is sweet for the money. So if you're wanting to dabble in that higher end stuff, but you don't want to spend a fortune, I don't know that you're going to beat a Twin Power this year. I have no idea why it came out so quietly, why there was no fanfare about it, but I'll be the guy that says something. I like it. So guys, hopefully this helps you. With springtime coming, we're all out there bass fishing. It snowed here yesterday. It still didn't slow anybody down. I'm right by the boat ramp. I'm watching boats go by. It's springtime. It is time to go catch some fish. So from flexible A-rigs to glide baits to worms to new rods and reels, all sorts of awesome new gear came out at the Classic. You know that we are gear junkies. We had to try a bunch of it just as fast as we could, and overall have been very impressed. Hope you guys find this video helpful. Again, we'll link every single item down in the video description. For baits, we will include favorite colors, hook upgrades, that sort of thing. For rods, we'll give you favorite models in the lines. But Overall, a bunch of awesome stuff came out this year. Hope you find it helpful. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, make sure you turn on notifications so you know when new videos are coming, and we'll talk to you soon.